Hello everyone, welcome back to this channel. Today we will create this game. The name of the game is Make Them Fall, and this game was released by Ketchup. So let's start the video. First, I think we should analyze the game, what we have to create. There is mainly two components in the game. One is the player and the second one is spikes. The functionality of the player is to move from left to right or right to left when player give the input. When you tap or press the left mouse button, the player should move from left to right or right to left. Second thing is creating an illusion that player is falling down, and when the player hit the spikes, player is dead. These are the three things which we have to do. So let's start creating this game. As you can see, I have created a new project. The Unity version which I am using is 2018.3. I have created a new asset folder and imported few assets which I have created for this game. These are the basic shape. And now let's change the build setting to Android. Hit on switch platform. Now change the aspect ratio to portrait. Now we have to change these images into sprite. Changing the sprite type to sprite 2D and hit on apply. And we have to do the same thing for each sprite. I have also created a player sprite. This is a texture sheet. Let's import this in our project. We have to slice this texture sheet into individual images. Change the texture type to sprite 2D and sprite mode to multiple. Hit on sprite editor, hit apply, hit on slice. Now Unity will convert these texture image into individual images. Hit on apply. Now let's create an empty game object. I will name that player, and below that game object I will create a 2D sprite game object. I will drag and drop this image. Now let's create a script for this player. I will create a new folder. I will name that script. I will create a new script and I will name it player. Drag and drop this script on player game object. Now open the script in editor. As we know, we have to create the functionality that if the user presses the left mouse button, the player should move from left to right or from right to left. And if you think you can do it, this is a better time to test your skills. Now let's create few variables. I have created a vector2 variable. This will store the x value where player will move when we click. I have also created a change direction bool variable. We will use this variable to check if we are moving or not. I have also created a left facing bool variable, and we will change this value when we are moving left or right. I have also created a vector3 desired position variable. This will store the desired position where player have to move. You will get to know why I have created these variables once we start coding. There are a lot of ways you can achieve this functionality, and I think this is the most easiest way. Now let's create a method which will change the value of the desired position variable where player have to move next. I have created a desired position method, and inside this method I have assigned the value to desired position vector3 variable. If the change direction bool value is true, we will provide this value to the desired position, else we will provide this value. Y position will be the same. Now let's create a method to check if we are moving left or right, and I will name it change direction. And inside the change direction method, I will change the value of the change direction bool to true if it is false, or if it is false I will change it to true. And if left facing and change direction bool is not equal, I will change the value of the changed variable to true and provide the change direction bool value to the left facing. Now inside the update, if we are currently changing the direction of the player, then we will change the transform position of the player to the desired position. I have used the vector3.love method. This method will change from the transform.position to the desired position in 0.1 second. This will add some smoothness in the player movement. If the x position of the player and the x position of the desired position variable is same, we will assume that player has reached the desired position. Then we will change the bool variable to false. And now when we press the left mouse button, we will call the desired position method as well as change direction method, so that the player will move from left to right or right to left. I will call these two methods in the start as well. Now let's test the application. For the testing, let's create an empty game object, and I will change the camera projection to orthographic, and I will create a 2D sprite game object. I will drag and drop the rectangular sprite, scale down a little bit, move in the left direction. Now I will duplicate it and move it in the right direction. Now move the empty game object on the x-axis, and we want the player should move at minus 2.1. I will write minus 2.1 here, and on the right side I want the player should move at 2.07. So now let's test the game. Great, the player script is working. Now let's see what will happen if we do not use vector3.loop. I have created a easing bool variable, and inside the update, if easing is true, then we will use the loop method, else we will just provide the desired position to the transform.position. Now let's start the application. First run the application without easing. Without easing, the movement of the player is quite abrupt, but after using vector3.loop, the movement is quite smooth. I will rename these game object to wall and create an empty game object and drag and drop these wall game object inside there. I will rename it to wall holder. Now create an empty game object for the spikes. I will reset the transform. Now create a 2D sprite game object. I will drag and drop this triangle image, scale it to 0.2. Now let's make this a prefab. I will create a folder and I will rename it to prefab, and I will drag and drop this inside that folder. I need to reset the position of the prefab. I will align it a little bit. Now we have to create a script for this. Now to create an illusion that player is falling down, we can move the spike in the Y direction. I will drag and drop this script on our spike prefab. Now open this script in editor. The functionality of the spike is to move in the up direction, and when the spike hit the player is dead. For that I have created a move speed variable which will control the move speed of the spikes. I have also created a min max y value vector2 variable which will store the maximum y value after which the spikes will move down. I have also created a position variable which is of vector2 type. It will store the current position of the spike. Now let's create a method to add randomness in the game so that we don't have to instantiate a lot of spikes. It will help to save the memory as well. This line of code will take the game object which is at 0 position and set it to true. Now inside the update we will move the spike in the up direction, and vector3.up is similar to new vector3 0 1 0. Now inside the update, if the y position of the spikes is greater than min max y value, we will move the spike so that it should appear from below. For that I have stored the transform.position in the position variable. I didn't change the x value of the position. I have just changed the y value to the min max y value and provide the position value to the transform.position. Now after this I have called the show or hide method. First of all, let's uncomment the code, and inside the if bracket, if random.value is greater than 0.5 and random.value give a random value between 0 and 1, so there is a 50% chance that this line of code will run, and if it is true, then we will take the game object which is at the 0 position and set it to false, else the game object will be true. By doing this, we don't have to instantiate a lot of spike in the game. And let's duplicate the spike to create some more spikes and move it in the right direction. Now let's try to run this application. Now the spike is moving upward, and when it reaches a certain point it will move down. Now this gives an illusion that the player is falling down, and in reality player is not moving down, spikes is moving up. And now let's delete these test game object and create a game object that will hold the spike, and I will name it spike holder. Drag and drop the spike holder prefab. I will duplicate the spike and change the position. I will create a new empty game object. I will name it spike holder left. I will drag and drop these spikes inside this game object. Now I will duplicate it with Ctrl D and rename it to spike holder right. Move in the right direction. Now the functionality is working for one game, but actually there are two game and two player on the same screen. So let's create that. I will create an empty game object and I will name it game left. I will drag and drop these two game object below it. I will scale it down and move it in the left direction, and I will align the spike as well. Now I will duplicate it using Ctrl D and rename it to game right. Move it in the right hand side. I will change the scale and I will change the position as well. Now drag and drop the player game object. I will duplicate it and drag and drop this under game right game object. Now we have to change the X position of the player as well, where the player will move when we click. So taking the reference from our empty game object, the player should move in minus 2.34 in the X direction, and in the right the player should move, I think, minus 0.37. And for the game right player should move 0.32 in left and player should move 2.3 in right. Now let's test the application. Great, the player are moving correctly at the correct position. Right now when I click, both of them are moving in the same direction. We have to create the functionality that if we click in the left part of the screen, the left player should move, and if we click on the right part of the screen, the right player should move. There are a lot of ways from which you can do it, but we will do it using the collider. I will place one collider in the left half and other collider in the right half. So create an empty game object and I will name it side. Again create an empty game object and I will name it left side. Duplicate it and I will rename it to right side. Now add the box collider to the left side, changing the size of the box collider. This collider should cover the left half of the screen. I will copy the component, paste as a new component, delete the minus sign so that it will move to the right side. Now left side collider is covering the left half of the screen and the right side collider is covering the right half of the screen. Now we have to create a script which will move the left player if we click on the left side and right player if we click on the right side. Now let's create a script for left and right side collider and I will name it collider game object. Delete the two packages which we will not use. Inside this script we don't need the start and update as well. We have to take the transform of the player which we want to move. Now drag and drop this script on our left and right side collider. And in the player transform, drag and drop the transform of the left player on the left side and drag and drop the transform of the right player on the right side. We have to create a method as well and I will name it call player method. And inside this method we will simply call this method of the player class. We haven't created this method, we have to create it. Open the player class and copy and paste these two methods inside this method. Now error should go away. Now we have to create a script for the side game object which will check if we have click on the left side or the right side so that we can call that method. So now we will create a new script. I will name it click checker. Open this script in editor. This script will check if we have click on the left side collider or the right side collider and call this method inside that class. We don't need the start method. And inside the update, if left mouse button is pressed, we will take the mouse position using camera.main.screen to world position. It will change the mouse position to the world position. We will shoot a ray from the mouse position to the world, and if the ray hit the game object whose transform name is left side or the right side, we will call the call player method of that class. Now the script should work correctly. Let's check. Great, the script is working fine. Now let's add the functionality that if the player hit the spike, the game should be over. Open the spike prefab and let's create a layer. I will name it spike and I will apply this layer to the spike game object and add the box collider to it. I will tweak the size a little bit, making it a trigger collider. Now inside the player script, we have to write the onTriggerEnter method. If the player hit the game object whose tag name is spike, then we will just display dead player. Let's create the animation for the player movement as well. I will take the reference of the animator using getComponent. Now let's animate the player. I have to open the animation window. I will create a new animation. I will create a new folder for the animation as well. And I will name it animation. Inside it, I will name the animation player. Hit save. I think I should rename it to player left. Now move the window so that we can drag and drop the image. Click on add property, new sprite, sprite renderer and hit on sprite. We are changing the sprite of the child game object. Now drag and drop these images from left to right. I will delete the first and end frame and move the sprite. Now create a new animation for the player right. And again I will click on add property, new sprite, sprite renderer, sprite. Now drag and drop the player sprite from top to bottom and delete the first and last frame. Move the frame so that it will start from 0. Let's check. I don't want this animation to loop, so I will untick the loop in both animation. Now let's create a bool condition for the animation and I will name it change direction. And if the change direction is true, we will play the play right animation. And if the change direction is false, we will play the player left animation. Now inside the update, we have to change the bool parameter to true when we are moving left and false when we are moving right. We are already taking into account if we are moving left or right. So I will copy and paste the change direction bool in here, add the semicolon. Now I think the script should work. Add the player animator to the other player game object as well. Now let's start the game. They are facing in different direction. We have to change the parameter. When the change direction is false, we will play the player right animation, and when the change direction is true, we will play the player left animation. Great, now the animation is playing perfectly. Now the player is facing in the right direction. Now add some extra element to it. I want the background image color should change every time the player start the game. For that, let's create a new game object. I will name it color changer. I will create a new 2D sprite game object. I will name it left side. I will duplicate it and rename it to right side. Drag and drop the rectangular sprite in here. Scale down a little bit. Move in the right direction. Follow the same step for the right side game object and move it in the right direction. And I will change the color so that I will see the sprite. I will change the sorting order as well so that it should not come in front. Now let's quickly create a script. I will name it color combination. And this script will hold the two color which we will change. I will delete the two packages which we will not use. Inside this class we don't need the start and update method, and we do not want this class to derive from mono behavior, so we can delete that as well. I will create a variable and I will name it color to choose. And to show this class in the inspector, we have to use system.serializable. Now we have to create a color chooser script. Drag and drop the color chooser script on our color changer game object. Inside the color chooser script, we do not want the start and update method. We just want the awake method. Inside this script, let's create a game object variable and I will name it images game object. And the second variable is of color combination. This is the script which we just created and I will name the variable color chooser. Now head over to Unity and the size of the image game object will be 2. At the element 0, I will drag and drop the left side game object, and at the element 1, I will drag and drop the right side game object. And the size of the color choose variable, I will write 3. I will assign different color to it. So inside the awake method of the color chooser script, we will take a random variable from 0 to chooseColor.length and change the color of the sprite depending upon that random number. Now let's add the box collider and rigid body to the player so that it can collide with the spikes. Now changing the rigid body to kinematic and do the same step for the other player as well. Now let's start the game. It's looking good. Game is almost complete. Now when player hit the spike, we will restart the scene. To restart the scene, we will create a game manager. Let's create a new script. And inside the game manager script, I will use Unity scene management package. We don't need the start and update. Let's create a method restart scene, and inside this method we will just restart the current scene. Call this method from the player script. Now we will try to run the application. Congratulations, you have created the game. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have learned anything from this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. See you in the next video.